Humanity always dreamed of alien encounters and life outside our known existence, imagining scenarios of friendship and sharing knowledge with mysterious beings from outer space. Unfortunately, the reality of humanity's first encounter with alien life would be much more violent than this. Here is the story of the First Contact War, and how humanity's first contact with alien life was a disaster. When humanity began exploring space, it started out rather slow. Humanity's first steps into space happened on the moon with the moon landing in 1969. But after this, government funding dried up, and crewed space exploration slowed. Instead, they focused on unmanned probes and orbital stations, and less people were venturing out into space. It wasn't until much later that people were sent back to space to actually expand. First with the Armstrong outpost in Shackleton Crater on the moon in 2069. Then after this, the European Space Agency established Lowell City on Mars in 2103. This would be the first permanent human settlement outside of Earth. After this, it wouldn't be until 2142 that another settlement and scientific outpost would be established. Each new advancement was taking roughly 30 to 40 years to advance to the next one. And some were frustrated at this slow pace of progress, so they decided to take matters into their own hands. In 2070, Victor Manswell began investing into space, and he took the helm of pushing what had already been done even further. Funding his own extrasolar colonization mission, the Manswell expedition successfully launched in 2075. 300 cryogenically frozen colonists would be launched to the Alpha Centauri system in hopes of finding a new home. And while their launch was successful, their communications would be cut off shortly after departing, and the Manswell expedition would be lost to space. This mission may have been unsuccessful, but it did increase more explorations into space. Humans began finding whatever they could and mining planet resources wherever possible. In 2148, these exploratory missions would eventually lead humanity to discovering a Prothean observation post, with data that indicated that not only had Protheans been observing humanity, but they also had information on what would be known as a mass relay that was orbiting Pluto. This discovery and revelation about aliens was revolutionary for mankind. After the discovery was revealed to the general public, people were shocked and had trouble processing this history-altering information. New religions such as the interventionary evolutionists popped up, and they saw this discovery as proof that human existence had been influenced and controlled by aliens. Some questioned their religions, and some even denied the evidence entirely. Minds were split on how to process the information. But one thing was clear: humanity as a whole needed a united front against any potential aliens. Within a year, the 18 largest nations on Earth had come together to establish the Systems Alliance, a political alliance to represent all of humanity in their quest to expand into space and also to defend human territory. After the creation of the Systems Alliance, the nations of Earth would go on to fund the creation of the Systems Alliance military, and they wouldn't have to wait too long to be able to test it out. During this time, the hunt to decipher and understand the Prothean data found on Mars was still ongoing. Within a year, a human science team had been exploring near Pluto. Here they would find the Charon Relay. Covered in ice and originally thought to be a moon, the truth of it was confusing, but it was not the moon they had thought it to be. Instead, it was the Prothean technology that the data cache had been referring to, a mass relay. Humanity didn't understand the science behind it at first, so they studied the mass effect fields and used it to develop their own faster-than-light travel. After activating the relay, they also quickly began using it. Probes to explore what was on the other side were sent through the mysterious relay, but they were all lost. So the only way to discover what was actually there was to send explorers. A team of explorers led by John Grissom was sent through the relay. One of these explorers would be Alec Ryder. In 2149, Grissom and his entire team would successfully venture to the other side of the Charon relay. Their journey would take them 36 light-years away to Arcturus. Upon arriving in the Arcturus system, Grissom realized that there were several other connecting relays, and that the Charon relay was just part of a massive network, and now they could use it. Access to these relays changed humanity forever, and they began using the relay system to expand and settle very quickly. Many colonies were established with reckless abandon. Whether it was ignorance or excitement, or just pure disregard, humanity expanded wherever they could, claiming every possible world, uncaring if the planets were inhabited by anyone else. It seemed as though humanity, who once dreamed of alien encounters, didn't think they'd experience one for themselves, despite using alien technology to travel across the galaxy, which of course would be their downfall. Luckily, they had the newly formed Systems Alliance to lead the explorations and expansions, and luckily even more, that they had their military ready as well. Little did humanity know that the Council had been watching them grow, but the Council still viewed humanity as a newer and less established race, so while they were monitored, they were also ignored as any potential threat. During this time, the Systems Alliance was busy building Arcturus Station, with construction beginning in 2151. Here, the Systems Alliance was expanding their military and wanted to have a space station at the center of their new relay system. Construction was finished in 2155, and the Arcturus Station was officially inaugurated in 2156. After 8 years of activating any relays and expanding wherever they could, humanity's carelessness would catch up with them. In 2157, when humanity would be in the process of activating Mass Relay 314, they were discovered by the Turians. The Systems Alliance, unaware of the Council and their Council space laws, didn't know that activating new relays was illegal, specifically after the Rachni Wars. So when they were met with open hostilities from the Turians, they were confused, scared, and also angry. To the Turians, they were simply enforcing Council law, but to the humans, this would be their first encounter with alien life. The Turians immediately opened fire, and when only one Alliance ship was able to escape the attack, they returned with news of what happened. The Alliance, now roughly 8 years old, had already been building their military, readying themselves for such an occasion, and so they retaliated. By this time, their Navy fleet had grown to over 200 vessels, including several dreadnoughts. They sent in a force to destroy the Turian vessels, and thus full war broke out. Both sides immediately became extremely hostile, with the Systems Alliance military sending probes armed with nuclear fusion warheads into Turian space, and some of these would even remain there for many years. While the Systems Alliance was somewhat successful, they were also going against the strongest military force in the galaxy. The Turians were formidable. Several Alliance scout and patrol fleets were defeated, and the war continued to escalate. With the war growing and now expanding, Shanxi, the closest human colony to Relay 314, became the next target of the Turian hierarchy. With the current advantage, the Turian forces killed any opposing soldiers, and any remaining defenders were without food or supplies. Both the Alliance military troops and civilians were beginning to starve. Among these forces was the newly promoted N7, Alec Ryder. General Williams, Ashley Williams' grandfather, was the Systems Alliance commander of the garrison on Shanxi. He was unable to counter the Turian forces, whose attacks were overwhelming. Entire city blocks were destroyed by the Turians' relentless pursuit. Their attacks were direct and brutal, willing to destroy the entire colony just to destroy the small forces that were stationed there. No amount of casualties were too many, for Turian doctrine was about annihilating your enemy so they could never stand against you again, not just defeating them in war. The Turians were unrelenting. A human was also captured and interrogated by Turian forces, and they told the human that they were planning to go as far as to conquer Earth. But whether this was the ramblings of a cocky soldier or true feelings of the hierarchy is unknown. Regardless, they severely underestimated the human alliance forces. But unfortunately for General Williams, initially the human colony was losing to the Turians. Realizing there was only one way to save the starving civilians, General Williams surrendered to the Turians, who then seized the colony from the Alliance. After Williams' surrender, he would become a pariah amongst the military ranks for his surrender. And while his mission was a failure, several other missions led by the Systems Alliance were successful, such as the mission led by Admiral Thaddeus Ahern, who led a small squad to retrieve a data module which was stopped and attacked by dozens of Turian soldiers. But Ahern and his team were still successful. They took out the Turian soldiers long enough for their evac to safely evacuate them and the data module. This was just one example of humanity besting the Turian military, something the Turians didn't imagine was even possible. Admiral Hackett and Captain Anderson would also prove themselves during the First Contact War. Hackett would be promoted to second lieutenant the year before the war, and his quick rise in the ranks and success in the war would make him an Alliance legend. Anderson had just completed his N7 training at Arcturus Station, and he would also go on to become a legend within the Alliance, both for his serving in the First Contact War and for later helping to save Earth. Also serving within the war were Dr. Chakwas and even Oleg Petrovsky. Many of these skillful soldiers were helping to turn the tide. The Turians thought they had defeated all of humanity's forces, and they also thought they had been successful in capturing the Shanxi colony. And they were for a short while. But the human colony also proved to be a difficult location to hold, as the Turians needed their special dextro-based foods, which they had to have flown in as it wasn't readily available in the human colony. This caused a problem for the Turian soldiers. Underestimating the Systems Alliance and humanity, they were getting cocky, and they believed they had defeated all of humanity's forces in their battle to capture the colony. So when the Second Fleet, commanded by Admiral Castany Drescher, launched a powerful counterattack and attacked the Turian forces from behind their own forces, the Turians were completely caught off guard. The surprise attack was successful, and they were able to liberate the Shanxi colony from the Turians. In response to this, the Turians were furious and planned an even greater counterattack. But now, with the capabilities of the human forces seen, the Council realized that they underestimated the humans and their Systems Alliance. They also realized how deadly a full-scale war between the Turians and humans could be, so they finally intervened. With the intervention of the Council, peace was established between the Systems Alliance and Turian hierarchy after their short and brutal war. The First Contact War only lasted for 3 months, and only 623 human soldiers were lost, with the Turian losses being slightly larger. A surprising result for humanity's first encounter with the strongest Turian military force in the galaxy. Once peace was achieved and a truce was agreed upon, the end of the war came to be known as an Armistice Day. Everything was different after this. Now, with their first contact made with aliens and now the Council, this would expose humanity to several new alien races. They also learned of the Council and wider galaxy and were somewhat welcomed into Council space. For many, they were simply happy that the war was over. But for some, they struggled with the new world they were having to adapt to. General Williams was told that cohabitation with native species to further mutual interest is the way of the future, and he just couldn't agree to this future, so he resigned. Life after the First Contact War for humanity was very different. After their first encounter with alien life resulting in war and bloodshed, many humans were prejudiced towards alien life, and this xenophobia became so rampant that anti-alien extreme pro-human groups like Terra Firma and Cerberus were born from these anti-alien ideologies. Many of those involved with the war, especially, would carry these views even long after the war ended. The Systems Alliance never took any responsibility for the situation and were looked at unfavorably by other races. They were blamed for the war despite not being the initial aggressors. And they became the source of resentment for many, as humanity, now aware of the Council, demanded a seat alongside the Asari, Turian, and Solarian councilors, which other races like the Volus and Elcor, who had been there far longer than humans, didn't even have. Humans would be seen as brutal, arrogant, and lesser than, and it would take several years to change how they were viewed. On the Turian side of things, the Council ordered the Turians to pay reparations to the Systems Alliance for the damage that they caused, since they were the ones who opened fire first. And the tensions between the Turians and humans would remain. For humanity, this event changed the course of their future. They would be exposed to new races, new locations, and a brand new way of life. Life as they knew it was gone, and now they would live alongside the rest of the galaxy. But they'd also have to prove themselves worthy of existing alongside these new races. Humanity was looked down upon for several years, until Commander Shepard, a Systems Alliance soldier, would save the entire galaxy. And while the First Contact War would become a distant memory, what it revealed and what was born from it would change the galaxy in other ways. The battle over Shanxi was about more than just defeating the humans, for the Turians were hiding a secret, a dark secret. Jack Harper, Eva Corey, and Ben Hislop would discover untold secrets hidden by the Turians. What happened on Shanxi is part of the First Contact War, but it's also really about the creation of the Elusive Man and Saren as we knew him, which is a story for my next video. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more, which I will be doing these weekly lore videos. So let me know what other topics you'd like me to explore. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my channel members. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Thank you all so much for your support, and I'll see you next time.